Hello, uh, Programaton. Um, have I ever heard of Drawbox.com? A lot of people have been recommending it as an excellent drawing tutorial. No, I haven't heard of it. But I guess I'll look into it and make a note of it. Drawbox.com. Also, what have you been the most helpful? Oh, what have been the most helpful drawing resources you've encountered during your development as an artist? I just purchasing a few of the anatomy books that I have now. Just go grab those real quick. Doing another stream right now. Yeah. Okay, Nick. Okay. There was another. All right, here we go. Tease. Come on. Give me a. Okay. These are the books that I do have. Here's the Artistic Anatomy by Dr. Paul Reacher. Atlas of Human Anatomy for the Artist by Stephen Rogers Peck. And Drawing the Head and Figure by Jack Ham. And out of all these three, like, this is probably the one I refer to a lot. This one is pretty good. Like, I'd probably rate it like the second one. And this one is like I use for like really quick references, like how he goes about like explaining a few of the things that he does draw. They're like several good notes in it. But above all, like this is the one I refer to a lot. So like I highly recommend this book. And there are a few anatomy books I still want to purchase, but I have not gotten around to acquiring just yet. But for the most part, those are the top three. Don't know if you can hear me with all this this music. Yeah, this one. Yeah, I'm not sure if you've ever seen it before, but yeah, it does have like pretty detailed drawings of the human anatomy. It does seem like fairly, like, I guess, classical in the sense that you're talking about. But yeah, it's a fairly good book. I recommend that as well. But those are the three books that I have. Yeah, those are the three anatomy books. Well, I have four of them, but the fourth one, it's so-so, and I feel like the three ones I showed are much better. Yes. Now you see where the classical look on my lowlies comes from. To be honest, oh shoot, I wish I still had the book. I have no idea where that sketchbook is. I think it may have been the ones that were confiscated, but from these sketches, or from let's see, I believe it was this book. No, actually, it was this book. It's I had like a section of one of my sketchbooks, and I went through this book in particular, and I lolified all of these anatomy studies. And yeah, just pretty much all of them, I just lolified them, like taking all the structures I see here and just kind of converted it into just like a lowly image, and just yes, yeah, lolified. That's pretty much what I did to like all the like anatomy. Well, the majority of the anatomy reference that you see here, and I would refer to that sketchbook whenever I needed to, I guess, draw like a particular character or lowly in whatever form that I wanted to, until I could eventually just do it right out of my head. So that was one of like the tricks of my trade, is that I would take anatomy books, take the anatomical structure sketches, and just lollify them in my own reference sketchbook type deal. And I wish I still had it, but it was a composite book, much like this, where I went through and just yeah, as you can see, like I still have like some like native sketches, but these are all like just clean artworks. But yeah, I did go through and just like do like a bunch of like muscle studies like this, copying from anatomy books, and just straight up lolified them. And that is what I did to become one of the I don't want to toot my own horn, but I guess one of the more prolific Western lowly artists that are out there at the moment. What sets them apart from other anatomy books? How do you judge that? I guess it's like a personal preference. There are some anatomy books that just show you like a straight anatomy, like from like models, nude models and such. But I prefer the anatomy books which show illustrations from which like an actual artist went through and just went ahead and like drew the anatomy for you. And in getting books of that nature, it's like you already get the sense that the artist went ahead and did all the hard work for you and just like outlining all the important things that you need to either look at or reference. So I prefer like anatomy books that have illustrated anatomical drawings or renderings. So the fourth anatomy book I have, it has like a lot of kind of like nude models with illustrated like layovers. They have like these transparent pages that you can lay over the nude model and just see like a detailed anatomical artist depiction of the muscle structure or the bone structure. But in all actuality or all honesty, I do prefer like the straight illustrated like anatomical reference books rather than like the anatomy books that use actual like real life models and such, because in the artistic drawn illustrated anatomy books, like an artist has already gone through the has already did the hard work for you and has already like illustrated like points of reference or important important lines that you should pay attention to as an artist to draw anatomy. Yes, I prefer the principles that have already been pointed out by other artists. And also, like in doing a lot of my loli work, I did reference like a lot of manga artists that are out there, and just kind of like mimicking what they do and what they draw just seems correct. So I just referenced a lot of them, and I wish I knew their names, but since they're all written in Japanese, like I never bothered to like figure out what their names are, and all I did was just pretty much download a lot of their artwork. But some of the ones I do enjoy are Russell, as I stated earlier in a previous video, and the artist that does the series, the gorgeous Takarada. I enjoyed that one particularly because I enjoy how he details some of the nether regions of his characters. And I emulated that in some of my work, but I don't think it's as obvious as as I think it might be. But there are several manga artists that I did emulate in some of my work, but at the same time, just trying to make it my own. So, not sure if anyone had ever caught on. Yeah, like I mentioned Russell only because his name is the only name that I remember. But other than that, like there are several like manga artists that I did reference, but I just never bothered to learn their names. But one of the artists that I did enjoy was the artist that created the series Gorgeous Takarada. Oh, his name is Gorgeous Algarada? Okay, yeah, I guess yeah, that's one of those artists that I emulated in a few of my pieces. There are like a few panels in which he draws the nether regions of his female characters that I really enjoyed, and I don't remember which pieces I drew in which I emulated the way he would would draw, but when I emulate an artist, I tend to keep it very subtle, except for the times when I'm just like straight up like mimicking that particular artist. For instance, one of the animated GIFs that I made was a straight copy of I, I don't know what artist it was, but it was a scene that I saw in one of the mangas, and it was like so fluid in the illustration, and the illustration conveyed like the certain sense of movement, and the movement was just so present in that single illustration that I just had to animate it. So I did. Oh, there's more people here. Officer Jew, I guess. No, I'm not drawing hentai. These are basic rough sketches for a commission that I'm slated to do. So figured I may as well just continue the rough sketch process. I already got the rough sketch approved, but personally I don't feel happy with it, so I'm like incorporating like more of the character to have a more full body image, but still somewhat keeping the same gesture that I had in the original rough. Oh, hey, Skullhead, what's going on? Yes, for Graviton, he does draw them in a very fleshy way, and it's like, just when I saw that, it's like, how, with just like the more like simple gesture of like a few lines, does he get that effect? So like I would emulate that a few times in some of the lowly drawings I would make as Natus_01. I don't remember which particular try to keep it as subtle as possible, but yet keep that technique or um, what I learned from just like looking at that manga artist's work and just incorporate it in my own. But yeah, like how I got to be as a decent artist as I am is just comes from a lot of the like anatomy books I just showed earlier, and the just emulation of like well-established artists that are already out there, and not just like doing like a straight copy all the time, but like just trying to emulate some of the style or techniques that you can somewhat perceive from their art, and just incorporating it into something that you create. And that's what I did. Oh, this was just a random live stream that I decided to do because I've been drinking, and it's only been going on for 20 5 minutes and 30 seconds right now. So you haven't missed much. Hmm. Oh, nuts. I gotta get another beer. So I'm gonna do what I need to do to get my right back. So I think when she realized that I was gonna stop, like she just kind of fizzled out. But that's whatever. And I'm back. For Grammaton, when you mentioned this Pucci-Ya and like the style that he draws in, I think I vaguely know what you're talking about. So I think, yeah, the way you describe it, I think I do know his style. The Cantina song, really? Oh my gosh. How the hell did I end up here? Jeebus Crunch cereal. All right. Inuboshi? That sounds familiar. Inuboshi. 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 Yeah, you can list artists if you want. In a bag, I'm useless. Nothing on the future is coming on. I ain't happy. I'm feeling glad I got sunshine. In a bag, I'm useless, but not for long. The future is coming on. It's 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 coming on. Where's my other sharpener? As you can see, this pencil is reaching the end of its life. And pretty soon, this pencil will be joining the graveyard. Hey, this one's still got some life in it. This one too. Whoops. I would use this one, but I think I need a lead holder for this one because the lead came loose from the entire pencil itself. But yeah. Yes, I keep all my exhausted pencils, but I wish I would have kept the ones in prison because I went through a lot when I was in there. Simply because, like, when you're in prison, you don't have access to full pencils because they're such a rare commodity. I would find myself like just making deals for like a commissary or drawings just to get like a decent sized pencil. But again, like they're a rare thing. You have to either take particular classes to get them or smuggle them out of libraries and such. Yeah, prison life is hard for an artist too. But yeah, I wish I would have kept all those pencils I used in prison. It's like I had a bunch of them and I held them in my hand. I was like thinking, like, should I keep these? Shoot, I don't know. But in the end, I threw them away to like save space for all the stuff that I wanted to take with me when leaving prison. But looking back on it now, I should have kept those pencils. There was enough room for those pencils. We could have just put them in empty peanut butter jar or something and like brought them with me. I don't know. But yeah, regrettable. In prison, like depending on what prison you go to, you can ask for paper, but it's like writing paper. To write letters with. But they do have copy paper on commissary, so you can buy it there. But all the paper I got for free because everyone would just give me supplies because a lot of people just wanted me to draw art for them. So part of the deal was that they would fetch art supplies for me. And that's how I'd get decent quality cardstock too, is that they would find ways to smuggle it out of the library just for me to draw portraits for them. And they would smuggle me a little bit of extra cardstock, just as like part of that payment as well. Yes, I had people doing the dirty work for me. Yeah, you know what? I'll draw a portrait of your family, but you're going to have to do something for me. First off, I can't draw a portrait of your family if I don't have the appropriate material, such as cardstock paper. The only way you can get that is through the library. So for that, you know what? You're going to have to procure that on your own. But in order for you to pay me to do such an elaborate piece, if you want it so bad, you're going to have to, smuggle out a few more extra sheets for me to just draw some of my personal stuff as well. So once you acquire those materials, then we can talk. Yeah, that's more or less how it went down. And yeah, some of that smuggled copy paper was used to draw a lot of the obscene, lowly material that was posted on several of the, I guess, 8chan or 7chan. But as I'm to understand that 7chan doesn't have my thread up anymore. Maybe it got too old, maybe didn't get enough reposts or whatever. But from what I understand, some dedicated fans have kept my 8chan thread alive. Oh, I would love to get an electronic tablet. Before I was put away in prison, I used to have a Wacom Cintiq, 13-inch, and I loved that thing, but I had to sell it in order to make ends meet while I was on pretrial. So actually, I had two of them. I had two Cintiq tablets, both 13-inch, but I had to sell them in order to, I guess, in order to survive, keep a roof over my head, keep my belly full, all that stuff. So I'm looking forward to saving up enough money to get another Cintiq, and you know what? It's a joy to draw with because it's a lot like drawing on paper, but at the same time, you get the fact that like it's drawn right straight into a digital format with the same precision you get from drawing on paper. So you don't have to draw on paper and scan it in and just work on it from there. But in doing it on a tablet, you get the sensation that you're more or less drawing on paper. And utilizing a tablet like this, as I've stated before, it's like half artistry and half guesswork. But drawing on a digital tablet, on a digital screen, like it takes all the guesswork out of it, and it's a dream to draw with. Your 27 HD broken pieces. That's terrible. Oh my gosh. I hope you had a decent burial for it. Wow. That's sad. Oh, moving truck. You see, I think that's where you made the mistake. Like, instead of putting it in a moving truck, you should have put it in a car seat and like had it ride along with you. Yeah, it's sad. I'm sorry, Skullhead. I'm wondering if Wacom like offers like some sort of insurance. Well, I guess there's like a form of insurance when you like purchase purchase products, but like a lifetime insurance or something. Life and health insurance. Hiccup. You just thinking that's what you do, baby. Hold it down there. Jump with the moon and move it. Jump back and forth. You feel like you were there yourself. Get out. Okay. What were the particulars of the certain commission that I'm doing at this very moment? Let me refresh my memory. Okay. Do I know of any late 19th century or early 20th century who drew a lot of young girls? Oh shoot. I know, I don't know too many in particular, but I know like Ollie Johnston, one of Disney animators, like though like he I don't there wasn't much attention to it, but he did draw like a lot of like young girl illustrations. And he was a Disney animator. Was that his name? Ollie Johnston? Yeah. Ollie Johnston. And you can see like some of his work in some of like, well, I guess the early Fantasia. But if you ever come across like any of his like free range sketches that weren't pertaining to any like Disney works, then you could see like a lot of them were somewhat like young girl sketches, and some of them like were either like scantily clad or even nude at some points. Yeah, Ollie Johnston, I believe, was one of the. Oh shoot, I can't remember what they refer to them as, but one of the. Did they call him 6 or 7 old men of Disney? Nine old men. The 9 old men of Disney. I believe he was one of them. Yeah, Ollie Johnston. He was one of the 9 old men of Disney. And he drew like a bunch of like young girl illustrations, but that was back in a simpler time when such things weren't really all that much frowned upon. But then again, like he never drew them in the raunchy and provocative poses or situations that I drew them in. But you know what? Still, like he was a Disney animator, just drawing like young girls and in a certain way that would be viewed as questionable nowadays. Well, how do you spell Ollie Johnston? I believe this is the spelling. Yeah. I'm not sure if I should feel some sort of kinship because his first name is my last name. Wait, or his last name is my first name. Sorry, I'm drunk. I'm drunk and I'm drawing under the influence. Look at me go. Wow. Has anyone ever seen a drunk man draw with this much finesse? I don't know. Burp. Yeah, I've heard of like a Russian painter drawing or painting a bunch of like backstage ballerina portraits. I'm not sure if that's him, but I've heard tale of an artist that did that. Well, like he wouldn't draw like portraits like with them there, but just like I guess more or less out of his head or something. I don't know, but just kind of drawing like a scene of like ballerinas backstage in various forms of mid dress and such. Burp. Okay, I believe this sketch is a lot better than my first one. Mostly in the sense it's got like a more full body type proportion to it, and I think it's just had to burp, just slightly more dynamic. So I think I can put that to the side and update that sometime tomorrow. Where's the other one? Where did I put it? Ah. Yes. This one. I think I'll just put the sketchbook to the side. I don't know why I have it here. Have I ever tried drawing an auto portrait, like a proper realistic one? I think that's what I've been striving to do in a sense, just making them look as realistic as I can without any form of like real reference. I think that's what I've been doing for like the more recent ones I did in prison and then released them on or posted them on Pixiv. So yeah, I guess I have. Oh, portrait of myself? Let me make sure I'm not really confusing that and just yeah. A realist, yeah. I've done a few realistic auto portraits, but those were in a lot of my old accounts, which have been deleted and lost to time. So yes, I have done it. Done a few like self portraits and done a couple of them realistically, but they are now gone. Can't find them anywhere. What am I listening to? No, thank you. No, let me try to find something else. Burp. BRB again. Except for that one beer. Oh yeah? Oh. Yeah. And then big. Oh, thanks, Skullhead. I was chosen to carry on his legacy. Who knows? Maybe I'm a reincarnation of Ollie Johnston. Wait, when did he die? Died April 14th, 2008. No, I'm not his reincarnation, but maybe, perhaps, I was meant to carry on his legacy. maybe he was, maybe he was a fan of mine. Oh my gosh, that would be awful for his family. Oh no. Sorry, I didn't see that comment until just now after I came back. For Grammaton, you've heard artists find music to be distracting while they're drawing. Is that true? I've also heard it's distracting only when you're laying down the foundation of your idea. I guess both points are arguable. It mostly depends on the artist and I guess the song or the type of music. For me, like I can put on background music and just tune the whole world out. But then when a particular song comes on that I really enjoy, or if it's a particular song that I've imagined a whole music video to, like I just put everything down and just like tune into the music. So it's like it depends on the artist and it depends on the song, I believe. Yes, Skullhead, it would be dope if it turned out that Ollie Johnston was one of my fans. Ah, ah. Okay. Have I developed any appreciation for art over the course of my drawing experience? The stuff in galleries, you mean? The old galleries, of course, not the postmodern stuff. Um, you know what's weird is that now this is going to sound a little weird, but a few years back, I suffered somewhat of a psychotic break in a sense, where I didn't know what was real and what wasn't. To be more precise, I didn't know whether I was awake or whether I was dreaming. But after coming out of that, for so long, somehow it altered my perception of how I view things in the real world. And in doing so, it also altered my perception of how I look at artworks. So when I look at old artworks, as you say, like the whole like the realism artwork, and not the I guess the expressionist artwork. I look at it, and all of a sudden, I can see the depth of field that the artist was trying to convey. So if there's a particular artist who is trying to convey like a certain depth in their work, when I look at that artwork, somehow I can perceive all the depth that was meant to be conveyed in that particular piece. So in a sense, when I look at some of that old artwork, all of a sudden, like it'll just seem to like pop out at me in a 3D aspect, and it's like a really trippy experience, I have to say. And and this happens not only with like all the classical artwork, but when a piece of artwork is produced well, it's almost like I can perceive it in a 3D space. And somehow I'm able to utilize that in the drawings that I do work on. Because like sometimes I'll work on a sketch and perceive the depth of field, as it were. And if it doesn't look correct, like I'll either scrap that sketch or rework it until my mind's eye can perceive it correctly in that weird perception that I have somewhat acquired after my weird psychotic episode. I wouldn't call it a psychotic episode. It was like I was on the verge of a mental break, and somehow through that I acquired this weird artist eye to perceive 3D space in a 2D painting or illustration. And it's been pretty trippy, but somewhat beneficial. So in a sense, by attaining this extra or weird perception of 2D art through my near psychotic break, I've been able to like appreciate old artworks that much more, because I can get that sense of 3D space that the artist was trying to portray in their artwork. And it's a pretty interesting experience. So I guess the answer is yes, I do appreciate old artworks of that nature. But personally, it's something I wouldn't really strive for, because what I want to strive for is just being like an animator, and I want to get not only a sense of 3D space, but that sense of movement. So in a lot of my drawings, I don't know if it comes across all that well, but I try to convey like a sense of movement sometimes. And I'm hoping that movement does come across. Better job, bang, Skullhead says he's never learned anything other than the basics of frame by frame. When you get that tablet, you should do animation tutorials. It's funny you should mention that because I'm hoping that my how-to art tutorials will eventually lead into animation tutorials. Because at the moment I'm just doing like basics of how to draw like anatomical structures and this and that. But the goal of that is to eventually like just kind of bring it into the animation realm and talk about how to produce or draw animations and get that fluidity of movement in your works and get a base understanding of how movement works. But before that can happen, you need a base understanding of human anatomy or character anatomy in that sense. So my how to art sessions are all about just making sure everyone can understand how to draw a basic person or a basic character and like give them a sense of life in a 2D aspect first before bringing that into the animated realm. So it's like all like a step-by-step process and just making sure everyone just kind of follows along in that. A classical, I'm referring to for Grammaton's comment. Oh, well, hold on. Before I get to that, like Skullhead has asked a few things. Well, there's like a somewhat of a list of things that I plan to tackle because I've gotten several like suggestions and requests to do like certain things for the next how to art. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but they're noted somewhere, and in some of my comments. Geez, let me pull up the latest one right now. The latest one as of right now is how to draw butts at several different angles. And yeah, that's going to be a pretty interesting tutorial, but I'm pretty sure it's like a tutorial that a lot of people want to see. So in the coming videos of how to art, somewhere along there toward the end of this list is going to be how to draw butts. Okay, getting to for Grammaton. He's intrigued by this 3D ability I've just described. There's one classical painting he likes a lot by the Russian painter Nestorov. So let's look up Nestorov. Nestorov painting. Painter. Then he's talking about a specific painting, the vision to the youth, Bartholomew. And let me make sure that I am going to be looking at a large size image so I can get all I'm looking at it right now. The only sense of realism I get are from the characters in the portrait. There is some differentiation between some of the foreground terrain and the background terrain, but the midground terrain behind the character is somewhat flat. It's like I get that sense a lot from the road he tried to depict. So, for the most part, the only real aspects I seem to perceive are from the characters themselves, the boy and it seems like some sort of elderly wizard. And the impression I get is that they're utilizing this perception that I've just talked about. They seem to be like the only real characters just in front of a backdrop of some sort. So the boy and the old man do have some depth to them, but otherwise, other than that, like there is a little bit of depth of field in the various backgrounds, the foreground, midground, and the farther background. But for the most part, other than the two characters, everything just seems to feel like a backdrop. I hope that answers your question. Like after acquiring this, I guess, certain ability, I've been itching to go to like a art gallery of some sort. Like I went to the Getty Museum, the Getty Art Museum in California for like a college trip. And back then, like I didn't have this perception. So a lot of the art that I witnessed, I feel went very unappreciated by me. But if I were to go again with this certain perception that I do possess at this moment, like I believe I would just sit there and like analyze a lot of what I was seeing, because in a sense that's what I somewhat do in my head. A lot of the times when I see like a particular piece of artwork, it just kind of pops out to me, and like just kind of like analyze like why does it pop out to me, like what's going on with the character, what's going on with the foreground, what's going on with the midground, the background, what action is going on, what is the character trying to convey, or what is the artist trying to what what emotion is the artist trying to emote in this particular piece. So like I think it would be very interesting to like visit an art museum that has a lot of like classical artworks to display, and just like really just look at it in an analytical standpoint, or just like look at it with the visual, I guess the visual acuity that I somehow acquired through this weird episode that I had a few years ago. For Grammaton asks one other question: how do you come up with the faces for your lowly characters? Where does the general look come from? Um, I think it's mostly just what falls onto the page, for the most part. Um, like I get the sense of what expression I want to convey, and when I have the expression in mind, it's like I try to just draw a face to that. And sometimes, if I want it to be a certain race, I try to keep those visual cues in mind when trying to convey that face, emoting that expression. I don't know. Maybe I'd have to do a video on it. Well, like the expression doesn't. Well, the expression and the sense of race that I'm trying to convey just dictates. Yeah, it does dictate the face. So if I want to be an Asian or Hispanic or white, Caucasian or African American face, like emoting like a certain expression, then I try to keep all that in mind as I sketch out like a certain face, and then just try to, I guess, mold it from there. What do you think of this phenomena problem of same face that many people refer to when talking about particular hentai artists? Um, I guess that like I've gotten that a lot on my end as well. From I guess in all artists in particular. Now, this is just a theory. It's not just like stating how everything is. Is that when you're an artist and you're drawing characters and such, like a lot of the characters that you do create or that you do draw come from a basis of reality, and like a lot of that reality is based on your own experience, and from that experience is just a lot of that experience is based on yourself. So for a lot of artists who begin drawing, like a lot of the reference that you have at hand is yourself. As I've stated in like several of my like how to art videos, like sometimes the best form of reference is like either your own hand when you're trying to draw a hand, or your own face when you're trying to draw a face, like utilizing a mirror. So in doing that, like sometimes I've gotten the comments from like people in my waking life or my real, like I guess direct life, is that some of the characters that I do draw just tend to look like me. And that's because when I draw characters or like just learning how to draw forms and figures, I utilize myself as reference. So after doing that for so many years and just drawing characters, like sometimes you get the sense that a lot of the characters that you do draw, or sometimes some of the people viewing your artwork, tend to state that some of the characters that you create tend to look like you. And that's because like just honing your skills as an artist, like your best reference is oftentimes yourself. So in that aspect, I think just a lot of the characters are just extensions of yourself. So I think for the most part, the whole same face aspect comes from the artist just more or less drawing themselves in a sense. Or in another, I guess if you have to look at it another way, they get used to drawing like a certain particular face, or just drawing in a certain sequence that a lot of the faces that they do draw just more or less kind of tend to look the same. So I guess those are two explanations as to why that is. And that's interesting that you bring that up, because like some of the scenarios that I think about, like I think about scenarios in which I've been in, and of course, like a lot of the scenarios that I've been in personally never escalated beyond the point of actually like committing like a certain act, or like an adult committing a certain act with me. But a lot of the artwork that I do produce, like, kind of delves into the supposition aspect of like what if I had allowed like this certain act to go farther. But as a child, like being faced with like certain adult situations, I made certain choices which pulled me out of that situation because it was a situation I wasn't familiar with, but it's a situation that I was curious about. And in doing some of the artwork that I did, like as an adult, like I explore those possibilities. So in a sense, like that is very true. And the whole like exploring yourself aspect, or just like exploring like a certain possibility, and that's part of like what I did as a lowly artist, is that I draw upon like real life experiences in a way that like none of those experience well, I shouldn't say none, but some of those experiences didn't reach their extremes. But I explore the idea of like, what if I allowed those experiences to reach that extreme, and just let it all pour out on paper. Yeah, it's true. To Grammaton, like him stating, which puts a completely different twist. It's more of a masochistic than a sadistic trend in that sense, and that's very true because in exploring like these different aspects of like the possibilities of what could have happened or what might have happened, or like just conveying the actuality of what did happen to some of us artists, we're just putting that on paper, and it's not in a sense of just trying to be in a sadistic manner, but somewhat being in a manner masochistic manner in a sense. So for me myself, I do consider myself a masochist in a certain sense, and part of that I believe is conveyed through some of my artwork. And even though I do like portray a lot of the obscene artworks that I do depict in a lot of my drawings, as the characters all enjoying themselves, like in a sense, it's kind of like in a way self-torture, because that's the way I perceive it, is like a sense of enjoyment, or um, a wonderment or curiosity that I never got to partake in, and in my artwork I get to partake in that. So through my artwork I get to fulfill a fantasy that I never, or I was afraid to um, pursue in my youth. I gotta readjust this camera.
And I'm back.
Oh wow, you guys have been chatting a lot. Wow. Let's see. Tunes, the noise that come to they've been never thought my past trauma has affected my art. Personally, I wouldn't call it a past trauma, but a past curiosity in a sense. Because though I was curious about it, like I strayed away from it because I don't know. Well, in a sense, I was afraid of what might happen. In order to reproduce a certain emotion of a character faithfully, I assume you have to recreate that emotion within your mind. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, like pretty much. In order to reproduce a certain emotion of a character faithfully, you assume you have to recreate that emotion within your mind, your own emotional landscape and imagination. Pretty much, like whenever I'm trying to create like a certain emotion in character, I find myself like emoting that same emotion in my face, and it's something that I do like I'm not even conscious of it. Like so, if I'm trying to create an angry character, like when drawing that angry character face, like I find myself making that same face, and the same goes for like the wider range of emotions that you can draw on a piece of paper. Is like I find myself making that same face that the character is trying to convey, or I'm trying to make the character convey. Which means you are suffering exactly as the character is suffering throughout the creation process. I believe that's true, like in a sense, like when I'm trying to like create an aspect in which a character is facing like a very emotional hardship or is coming to a very emotional revelation, I can feel myself like having the same emotions or the same feelings as that character. So I get that in a lot of the scenes that I'm working on, or like brainstorming for this fan-made project that I'm working on. And the fan-made project I'm working on is going to be very heartfelt. And every time I plan out or plot out a lot of these scenes, it's like there's like a heavy impact of emotion. So yeah, like that is very true. So I'm hoping that the people who view this product once it's done can feel that same emotion that that is trying to be illustrated in this project that I want to produce. Skullhead says, "I guess I have some bad karma coming my way." Then, like, no, not in the sense like if it's all fictional, I think it's like it's all good. You're not making anyone suffer. You're just making yourself suffer in a sense. So by making yourself suffer, it's just you're not causing any harm but to yourself. So I don't think you have anything to worry about. It's when you draw a face of sticker that you're being a true seed. By the way, interesting fact, Hitler, an aspiring artist, was not accepted into art school because he didn't like drawing faces and didn't draw enough in his portfolio. Really? Oh, wow. Huh. It's like, that's weird because, like, he drew very decent backgrounds and landscape settings. But you know what? I've never seen him draw any um, figure drawings or anything. But for me as an artist, like I figure, like I see his work and I say like, wow, but like why wasn't he accepted? He drew such exceptional background pieces. But hearing this, like, I think I got to look into it and stuff. But like, that's a pretty interesting note. And when he did, they weren't very good. Oh no! Although quite strangely, he was described as masochist in his sexual preferences. Huh. Yeah, I think just living out your fantasies in an art format is just very healthy, and it's like one of the things that I do a lot of the time, and that's um, something that I realize is just like in a sense just made me cope with a lot of the things that happened in my life, and I didn't realize that in producing and sharing a lot of my artwork with like-minded individuals, it also assisted in a lot of their in their lives in coping with some of the things that they struggled with. And I do believe that this is part of my calling and just making this artwork available for a lot of people who want to view it or who need it to just be able to cope or just be able to oh shoot, I lost the word. I identify with their inner struggles in a sense, and just like in identifying it, you're able to either maintain it or overcome it. But yeah, I'm definitely wanting to go full bore with this fan made animated project because I've been thinking about it for several years as of right now, and I do believe it would be very beneficial on all aspects. And like coming from me, like I know there are a lot of fans who are expecting something lewd or sexual or illicit, but no, it's not going to be any of that. It's going to be like a fan made project, and it's going to be done from the heart, and it's going to be something I hope is going to be seen as oh shoot, what's the word?
I hate it when my vocabulary fails me. It sucks.
uh, not dedicated, not beneficial. It's goes along those lines. Dedicated, beneficial, true, faithful to the original material. And I've already released the sketches for it, and I got to get around to finishing those sketches and working on like somewhat of a script. And I've been thinking of like the first script, like just tossing around back and forth in my head, and I just want it to be like just something amazing for people to look back on and just like view with in awe. So, like I said, I already released the rough sketches, and from the rough sketches, I believe there are very obvious clues as to what the fan made project is gearing toward. Skullhead says, I don't know. I think some things are not fantasies and instead something neat the artist thinks up but wouldn't want to practice in real life. Yeah, and that's very true. As I stated in earlier, is that some of the artwork that I did like produce is just kind of like an aspect of like my past experiences that were never realized, but are more of like a what if. Like, what if I had allowed things to transpire, like, or progress farther than they actually did? Because in my youth, I did face like a certain like adult situations that aren't appropriate for young people to engage in. But I I didn't engage in, so to speak. But a lot of my artwork just kind of like goes along the boundaries of like what if things had like gone further than they did. So in a way, they're grounded in a form of reality of my previous experiences, but then grounded in more in fantasy, as if like yeah, the catalyst for that experience was real, but it didn't amount farther than that. But what if I did allow it to progress?
Yes, it is. Definitely.
Hmm. Hmm.
Oh, hells yeah.
I love this song.
Epic Sax Guy.
Although it's not a song, it's just a sample of a song.
But it's just so epic.
There we go. I think I'll clean up that sketch sometime tomorrow, as well as with several others. So, I think for now this will, well, unless anyone else has any more questions, I'm more or less done for the night, for this night anyway. Just came back from the shower. Yeah, I think I got a decent amount done. Oh, for Grammaton, who just came back from the shower, I'm just saying that I think I'm done with this live stream, unless you guys have any questions you want to ask at the moment. Can I give you a Discord or something? It would be nice to. Oh, that was that Skullhead. No, I think we pretty much have everything. Yeah, think we're good. Think we're very good. So yeah. So you guys share your Discord, and I think this has been a very successful first edition of random live stream art, or whatever I'm going to call it, because I think I'm just going to do random live streams whenever I get drunk enough. Oh. Anyway, oh jeez. So, for anyone who comes across this video later, this has been a random drunk live stream of me drawing, and I hope you enjoyed it. The couple of people who came to watch had a lot of fun, I trust, and asked several questions, and I hope I answered their questions to the best of my abilities. Yeah. Yeah, they had fun. They said they had fun. So, if you like this video, leave a like, comment if you want more. You know what? I'm just going to make more. It doesn't matter. For Grammaton says thanks a lot. Lots of interesting conversations, and please stay tuned for any updates on any random drunk friggin' live streams, because I think I might do these more often, though I shouldn't get drunk all that often. I don't know. It's very conflicting thoughts and emotions considering that. But anyway, yeah. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that jazz. If you want to support me, become a patron. If Patreon's not your thing, there's always GoFundMe. And I'll also leave links to my blog and several of the various art sites that I am a member of. I can't remember them at the moment. Hold on, let me think. DeviantArt, Fur Affinity, and Ink Bunny. Yeah. And I've also joined social media recently. I have a Facebook, an Instagram, and a Twitter account. So yeah, I guess you can follow me on those if you want. I don't know. So I guess that should be fun. Anyway, thanks to Skullhead and 4Grammaton for joining this live stream. It was pretty interesting. It was pretty entertaining. Just I was just gonna honestly, I was just gonna just draw and listen to music the whole way. But then after like interacting with you guys, it was just it was pretty fun. Just like answering some of your questions and reacting to some of your comments. It was a pretty cool stream. So thank you guys, and I hope to see you more for like future streams. And this is pretty fun, this whole streaming thing. So like I think I'll keep it up. Anyway, thanks for watching, and check you guys later. And thank you, Skullhead and 4Grammaton for making this more interesting stream than it would have been. Cool. So check you guys later.